All right, today we're going to go on a little journey back in time, using all sorts of records, census data, old newspapers, even family notes from the 1700s. We're going to piece together the story of one American family, the Winteringhams, as they move through some major moments in history. And our whole story is going to start with just a single, kind of mysterious number.
Here it is, 41. So what could this possibly be? I mean, is it an age, a house number, an amount of money? This single number is the thread that's going to help us unravel a story that stretches over 200 years.
And there's our answer. This is the obituary for a woman named Alice Winteringham, who passed away in Toledo, Ohio. And that number, 41, that's the total number of grandchildren and great-grandchildren she left behind. Wow! She was clearly the matriarch of a very large family, and she's going to be our anchor point as we start to travel back in time.
So let's get to know our starting point a little better. Who was this woman who stood at the head of such a sprawling family tree? Well, the details right here in her obituary give us our first set of really important clues.
So, you see, the obituary paints this picture of a life that was deeply rooted in Toledo. She lived there for over 5 decades, was an active member of her church, but notice this, her kids were scattered from California all the way to Michigan, which really shows you how families started to spread out across the country. But the most crucial clue for us is that she was a native of Marion, Ohio. That little detail points us one generation back to the person who brought the family to Toledo in the first place.
And that, of course, is the next logical question, right? Who was Alice's husband? Because his story, it turns out, represents this massive shift in American life, a move from the world of small-town artisans into the age of the machine.
Okay, so let's jump back another generation and see how this fella, Homer, and his life really reflects this huge shift in American society. His career choice is just a perfect symbol of the dawn of the 20th century.
And wow, this chart just lays it all out. Homer's dad, Isaac, was a shoemaker, a classic 19th century artisan working with his hands. But Homer, he became an industrial worker, a painter in the booming automobile industry. This wasn't just a change in jobs. This was a family transitioning into a whole new American economy.
And what's so cool is that we can actually trace his move through these incredible old records. It looks like he started testing the waters in Toledo back in the late 1890s, first at a wholesale house, then at a bicycle factory. Then, in 1911, the family sells their property in Marion for $800, and believe me, that was a significant chunk of change back then. That was likely the money that funded their permanent move. And sure enough, by 1920, the U.S. Census confirms it. He's listed as a painter for the auto industry, living in Toledo.
But before Homer and the roar of the assembly line, there was Isaac the shoemaker, back in Marion, Ohio. And as we start to dig into his life, we uncover a story that's both dramatic and deeply tragic, one that absolutely shaped the family's future.
You see, the next piece of the family's story doesn't come from a census form or a birth certificate. It comes from a shocking newspaper headline. And it's a stark reminder of the dangers that came along with this new industrial age.
Yeah, victim dies of injuries. That was the headline in the Marion Star in 1904. It doesn't get much more blunt than that, does it? Just a brutal fact that completely altered the course of the Winteringham family. So what on earth happened?
Well, what's just wild about this document is how it gives us this almost minute-by-minute account of a tragedy from over 100 years ago. The details preserved in the ink here are just incredible. The newspaper lays it all out for us. It's 8 p.m. Isaac, who's 72 years old, leaves his shoe shop to deliver a pair of repaired shoes. To do that, he had to cross the Erie Railroad tracks, which ran right next to his business. As he crossed, he was struck by engine number 113. He was carried to a nearby grocery store, then taken home by ambulance, but his head was just too badly crushed. He died shortly after midnight. And the most heartbreaking part? He passed away just 2 days after celebrating his 43rd wedding anniversary.
But hold on, this story doesn't just end with this tragedy. In the face of all this, the family fought back. His son, Elmer, acting as the administrator of the estate, decided to take the railroad company to court.
And they went big. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Erie Railway Company for $10,000. Now you have to understand, for 1904, that was an enormous sum of money. It was a clear sign that the family was determined to get some kind of justice for their father.
So Isaac's story is so deeply rooted in Ohio, right? But the Winteringhams weren't always there. To find their origins, we have to take our biggest leap back yet. Not just a generation, but across state lines and eventually all the way across the Atlantic Ocean.
To find this family's true roots, we have to jump from industrial Ohio all the way back to 18th century England. So let's trace the path of their incredible migration across the Atlantic.
And check this out. This timeline just captures the whole journey so perfectly. Over 150 years, they moved from Hometon, England to Dutchess County, New York, and finally settled in Ohio. It's the classic American story of moving west, told through one family at a time.
So here he is, the man who started it all in America, John Wintringham. He was a sailcloth weaver from Yorkshire. But get this. Look at the reason he left. He packed up his wife and 6 kids and crossed the Atlantic in 1794 to get away from Algerian pirates. Algerian pirates who were plundering ships and terrorizing the seas. I mean, can you even imagine? That's not a reason for immigrating that you hear every day.
So, who were these people really? Well, it turns out their identity was deeply, deeply shaped by their faith, which led them to build a unique and very close-knit community in their new home.
The key to unlocking their whole story is in these old Quaker records, and they're a little different. See, they didn't use month names like we do. This birth record for John from 1751 lists his birth in the 9th month, which, of course, we'd call November. This unique dating system is a dead giveaway that they were part of the Quaker faith.
And this is just fantastic. In 1813, John Wintringham's name shows up on this public notice, and the title is Horse Thieves, Take Notice. It was basically an announcement for a citizens' vigilance committee, a group of, quote, active and vigilant riders ready to go after criminals. This was real frontier justice, a community banding together to protect themselves, where official law enforcement was probably pretty thin on the ground.
But, being in that close-knit community meant there were some very, very strict rules. This record here shows that a couple of family members were disciplined for marrying out, which just means marrying someone who wasn't a Quaker. And this wasn't a small thing. It was a serious offense, one that could get you completely disowned from the society of friends, which was your entire social and spiritual world.
So just think about that whole journey for a second. You've got an English weaver escaping pirates, whose descendants become New York farmers, who are literally part of a horse thief posse. Their kids move west to become Ohio shoemakers, whose own children then join the brand new world of the automobile assembly line. It's just an incredible American story, all preserved right here in these documents. And it really leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? What amazing journey did your own family take?